What's up, everyone? This is your host, Sean Johnson, creator of Benchminer Hockey, and welcome to episode number 32 of the Benchminer Hockey Podcast. This is the hockey podcast that covers all things single A, and if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And let me introduce my guest from Swan Hockey, Mr. Eric Swanick. Thanks for coming on, boss.
Thanks for having me. What's going on, guys?
Of course, happy to have you on. I know we've been in touch for, probably about a year now, give or take.
Yeah, probably soon, not long after you started this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm surprised it took us this long to get you on the show, actually.
Yeah, now that you say that, I guess. Now that you say that, I guess so. But yeah, no.
So I am actually going to let you have the floor for a minute. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Eric Swanick. I am from New Jersey, born and raised. I, played hockey my whole life growing up, and once I was done playing, I kind of started transitioning to the business side of hockey. And actually, I kind of started transitioning while I was playing, towards the end of it when I had to, start making more money and everything. Because, obviously my dream was to play in the NHL like most players. And, I knew in order to keep pursuing that, how to try to make money to go along for the ride. And, so I kind of started Swan Hockey. It's probably about 12 or 13 years old now, I want to say. Yeah. And then once I got done playing, I obviously hit this full time, and I've been, fortunate enough to be able to still be at it, and, met a lot of great people along the way, and, a lot of people that, that I've learned stuff from. And, I love what I do. So it's not really, it's not really work, just like any other job. It's got it's got those parts of it that you just, sometimes it's like, oh, I could do without this today, but just like any other job, you got to do it. But, love what I do. So
100%. So for those of us that may not know, what exactly do you do? Like, what is Swan Hockey and Scout Central?
So we'll start with Swan Hockey. So Swan Hockey has kind of morphed over the years. It was a lot of on ice stuff in the beginning, and then it, kind of took a turn to more, I guess consulting type work. And, right now the best way to describe it is, I would say, an educational platform for players and parents. Like that's, it's, educational platform, community, that kind of thing. And then obviously there's, consulting services and stuff offered through Swan Hockey, but like, the actual, I don't want to say bread and butter, but, it's a platform to try to help players and parents navigate their way through the hockey world, pretty much starting at the higher youth levels. And then I do a ton of work in junior and in college, and then, some pro stuff as well. And then Scout Central is a branch off of Swan Hockey. It's a scouting platform that I created. It's just probably about a year old now, maybe a little more. And it's kind of, it's kind of like LinkedIn for hockey. LinkedIn, you're going to laugh, but LinkedIn meets Tinder or Bumble, for hockey players. Like, when I was developing it, that's kind of what I had in mind. And, it's kind of funny to like compare it to, a dating app, but it's, two sides trying to find each other, right? Like, so the whole idea is to, is an efficiency through simplicity type deal to try to make it as easy as possible for players and teams to connect.
Of course. So we're going to swipe right?
Yeah.
Swipe right at Swan Hockey.
yeah, exactly. Swipe right. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Again, like just, the whole thing, my whole approach with this thing is that there's a better way to play the game. Like, I think when you look at youth hockey and junior hockey, it's really crazy right now. And a lot of players and parents feel like if they're not making it, like, as expensive as possible, as hard as possible, as time consuming as possible, as aggravating as possible, they feel like they're not doing it right. And it's just not the case. So I, kind of take my experiences, the contacts and network that I've been fortunate enough to build up over the years, and try to leverage that and to just do this in a more, efficient, just a more efficient way.
Mhm.
You know, because, again, it doesn't have to be as expensive as most people make it. It doesn't have to be as aggravating and time consuming. And, I mean, I could dive into that for a half hour, but we won't. But yeah, in a nutshell, it's just, there's a better way to do this. And that's what I try to project to players and families is like, hey, let's do this a smarter way, a more balanced way, more of a way that you would do everything else in life. But for some reason, when it comes to hockey, everyone kind of takes all life logic and just throws it out the window, and we're going to do something else that's crazy.
You're absolutely right there. Actually got a couple questions for you about that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: where are you based, and do your clients have to be local to you?
So I'm based out of New Jersey, and no, I work with players and teams all over. Predominantly North America, and then I've got some, I've got some European, following as well, but predominantly North America. But to answer your question is no.
Gotcha. And would you say that you're? I know we just talked about youth hockey and junior hockey. Um, you said it's pretty much like your bread and butter. Like, is that your target audience? I know you have some pro clients, but is your target audience junior hockey?
Um, I would probably say so. I think that's, um, I'd say that's probably, yeah. I would say so. For a couple reasons, I think that's where there's the most chaos. I think that could be where I don't want to say where somebody I don't want to say like where the knowledge is most needed, but junior hockey is very big, right? Like
Hmm.
obviously as you go up the pyramid to the National Hockey League, it gets tighter and tighter. There's less leagues, less players, right? There's less, for instance, like double A pro, you're playing in the ECHL or you're not playing double A pro, right? Junior A,
Hmm.
there's like 10 leagues in Canada, 2 in the United States, not even counting the tier one. Um, so there's a lot more, which means there's a lot more confusion, a lot more chaos, a lot more help needed. Um,
Right.
and a lot more players, right? Like there's a lot more people that need help and families that need help because again, as you go up that pyramid, the player pool shrinks, right? And like I said, the roadmap shrinks too.
Right.
So I think it's a lot more needed. And again, maybe it's not the right choice of words, but I think there's, it probably is. It probably is more needed because there is more. I mean, not that it's not needed in pro, but there's a lot, probably more confusion and chaos in junior.
100%. Now, let me ask you this. I don't want you to give away your secrets per se, but how exactly does one recruit players or recruit clients?
Well, I mean, for me, I mean, in the early days, you know, I'd reach out to people, like tell them what I could do. And, it's, for me, it's been a lot of um, word of mouth. And, over the years, like I've been fortunate enough that that's grown to where like my recruiting efforts they've been able to be less,
Hmm.
right? Like, so like I operate probably like a little bit differently than a lot of people in the fact where like I have no ego with this. Um, for me, it doesn't matter if I'm working with, an NHL player or a youth player. And I'm just, so nobody takes it out of context, I'm not an NHLPA agent. I'm just using it as an example. So where me, like, I want to help whoever needs the help, right? Like,
Hmm.
I had my career, I'm happy with my career. Like, this is their career now, right? Like, I don't live through the clients. I don't live through the kids. Um, it's like if there's somebody, so, kind of answer your question, like what I'm looking for in a player is not like, hey, if you're not at a certain skill level, I don't want to work with you, right?
Hmm.
For me, it's do you want to move forward, whatever forward may be, right? And some guys forward might mean going to a Division 3 NCAA school. Some guys it might mean Division 1. Some guys it might mean ACHA, right? There might be some guys that are like, I mean, I had a kid one time literally come to me and he said, Eric, he said, I'm going to be 20 years old next year. All I want to do is play in a junior league in a nice location with good weather where I'm allowed to wear a half shield and I'm allowed to fight. I'm like, all right, listen, like, who am I to tell you, if that's what you want out of this? Like, everybody's got something different that they're looking for out of this,
Hmm.
right? So if that's what you want, like, okay, great, let's do it. Like, it's not what I think is cool. It's what do you want,
Right.
right? So, yeah, but so that's kind of a long answer, but yeah, to sum it up, I mean, for me, it's a lot of word of mouth, and what I look for in a player is just who wants to progress forward. Like that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at things too. Um, what would you say is the age range of your clients? I don't want you to give out their like personal information per se, but
Yeah,
um, teenager up to 25, give or
yeah,
take.
yeah. I mean, I would say the youngest guys probably start getting involved in this kind of stuff probably around 14, 15. I mean, 14 is a little young, but even in, you look at, and some guys actually probably get involved a little sooner, again, depending on geographically where they live, right? You look in Western Canada with the major junior, they have the Bantam draft. Um, and then the oldest, it goes up to the minor pro guys, like whenever they're, however long they're still, they're still playing.
Right. In your, I guess, professional opinion, would you say that Canadians take this a little more seriously than Americans,
Um,
as far as like the younger
no,
age goes?
um, maybe I think.
And that's
I mean, I,
not
I,
like
don't- I don't want to.
nothing
I
against
don't want to
Americans. I'm
say.
American, so
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, and obviously so am I. I mean, like, I don't. I don't want to say that they. I don't. I mean, I don't think so. I think. I think. Again, like you're comparing like the top end mentality to top end mentality. I think it's the same, right? You might have more players that take it seriously in Canada. Like you might have more, but just because they probably have so many more players that play.
hmm
And I
makes
think,
sense.
it's like, top end to top end, I'd probably say no, but there might be more volume. Which, I'm sure if we looked up the registered members of Hockey Canada and USA Hockey, I'd probably say that's true.
Right. I just I had to bring that up because I just watched the Tooth Fairy yesterday, and there's kind of like this scene in the Tooth Fairy where he kind of goes off on a 7-year old. He's like, somewhere there's another 7-year old that's working twice as hard as you, and that 7-year old is beating 12-year-olds, and that just reminded me of
Yeah.
this conversation we're having right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's funny. Yeah.
If you haven't seen that movie, go check it out. Dwayne the Rock Johnson's hilarious. Let me ask you this: what is the highest level of hockey your top client has made it to so far, and who was it?
Uh, Here in North America, ECHL. So, there's been a couple of them. And even Nicky Minerva. He's played up in the ECHL, SPHL. And he was a guy that I first got in touch with when he was probably I don't know, he's probably 16 years old,
Hmm.
maybe if that. And um, it's funny. I was just at the end of my playing career at that time, and I was putting together a pro-am summer team, and we were, short players. So like the rink's like, oh, we had this individual sign up. It's, Nick Minerva. We're going to put him on your team. Walks in. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, yeah, like 16 years old. And then like, and then we got on the ice and it's like, oh, geez, this kid's pretty good. Like, like he's real good. And,
Hmm.
and it's just funny the way things turn out, like here we are, like, you know, like that's how we met. Like he got, dumped on my summer team that I couldn't fill and recruit players for. And now I do this, now I'm involved in, scouting, recruiting, player placement, that kind of stuff for a living. And it's just funny how things work out.
That's wild to think about. Like, oh, this kid was dumped on our team, didn't even really want him, and then he makes it up to the ECHL. He could have, I don't know, taught some of your teammates a thing or two, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, no, he's worked really, really hard. Um, he's worked really hard. He's had some really good experiences. And, he actually won an RBC Cup, which is the Canadian, or it was a Canadian Junior A national championship. And he actually scored a game winning goal in overtime to,
Oh wow.
to win it. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So, a real special moment for him. Um, Logan Fredericks is another one. He was up in ECHL with Orlando and Wichita. In fact, him and Minerva, they're both out in Wichita together. Um, and they're both from here in New Jersey. And, Logan's over in England now. And Logan played in Roanoke as well. In the SP, I think he played, I want to say 6 games there. I think he did 3. I think he did 3 in Roanoke, then went up to Orlando, then 3 more in Roanoke, and then up to Wichita.
Oh wow. Well, that's awesome for him. I know goaltender Chris Marsilio. I don't know if you know him or not. I know he's a
Yes.
New
Yeah.
Jersey guy. I just
Yeah.
saw he posted on Instagram a couple days ago practicing in the Devils facility there, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So Chris, and I was a goalie when I played, and we're around the same age. He's a little bit younger than I am, and so just going back many years, like the training days and everything. And then I know he's been up in the Federal League, and everything that I've heard about him, from a professional standpoint, is that he just that he's like, you need him, he's there, he's he'll do whatever he whatever he's got to do to play in the league. He wants to play. I don't know if that's still his mindset to play in the league. But everything I've heard over the years is that he's really tried to get really tried to make the most of opportunities and seize them.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't talked to him in a little bit. He was on our podcast last year. He was one of our, I can't remember, probably first 10 episodes or so. And at that time, he was playing overseas, trying to come back to the States to play in the Fed this year was his plan. But again, that was last year. So I don't know what he's pursuing right now. I'll have to reach out to him. But it'd be awesome to see him back in the league. He was one of my favorite guys to work with in the locker room. Great locker room guy, too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, hey, it's nice. Always nice to see the New Jersey guys in.
I know something about you Jersey guys, to tell you.
It's getting bigger. It's getting bigger. Like, and again, not to get off track of pro hockey again, but even like looking back in junior, I don't remember. I think it was like 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Like, New Jersey cleaned up. Like, if I remember correctly, the Titans won the North American Hockey League. The Hitmen won the NCDC. I think the Rockets won the Premier, and the New Jersey 87s won the EHL. Like, New Jersey, like, cleaned up. Like, the only one of the they didn't win the USHL, but there's no USHL team in New Jersey. But
All right.
New Jersey's doing really well.
Well, as a New Yorker, I love to see the Northeast thriving. But even as a hockey fan, it's great to see like even the South is growing and hockey's getting much bigger down there as well. Like I know even when I was in Charlotte, like you wouldn't really think Charlotte would be like a hockey city because they had, an NBA team and they have NASCAR and they have the NFL, but they had a great turnout to the Charlotte Checkers every game we went to. So it's just great to see, hockey growing in the South and the South becoming a hotbed as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's doing really well in the South. I mean, you know, even the ECHL teams, and I think it's growing, and it's just it's nice to see minor league hockey in general doing well.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, the South is certainly embraced it.
right. I know that, at least for bench minor, we kind of cover strictly single A, so SPHL and Fed. And it's just great to see these attendance numbers just super high
Yeah,
across the league, really. Obviously, we have some much smaller markets. Like I know we had Delaware last year, and Watertown and Danbury, I guess, is considered a small market. But it's nice to see these cities coming in and fans actually supporting their team. Like Baton Rouge, holy crow! I knew that they were going to put up some numbers, but I did not expect 4,000.
yeah, they did well. I think the first game was like a Thursday too, wasn't it, or a Wednesday or something like
Yeah, it was
that?
a
Like,
Thursday night, and I can't remember the exact number now. I got to go back and look at it, but it was well over 3,000.
yeah, yeah, no, it's doing well. I mean, and like the fans are very passionate, and I think from what I've seen, it seems like the players in the Federal League do a very good job of interacting with the fans. Um,
Hmm.
I think that there is a pretty good connection, and I think um, like I think the Federal League really does have some good fans. I mean, and even like Delaware. You mentioned Delaware. I mean, like I thought their fan base was awesome. I mean,
Oh
obviously
yeah,
they had a small building and there wasn't I mean, but like they supported that team, like, and no knock against Delaware or anything, like, but the amount that they would lose and the fact that all those fans still came every night with a ton of energy, like they genuinely loved the team, and that's awesome.
oh yeah. I mean, I can't remember the exact number, but I know their building held around 750 maybe, but regardless, they were constantly selling out and they were constantly over 700. They had an
Yeah,
abysmal season and they were over 700 every game.
yeah. I mean, there's other markets where it starts to like you start losing a couple games, it's like everybody's gone, but
Right.
you know, I'm not, and I say that in generally across the board for sports. I'm not saying that about any of the Federal League markets. I'm just saying,
Yep.
in general,
If your
like
team
there's some
struggles, the
cities that,
attendance struggles. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but no, I think the
Not
fans and
Delaware.
yeah, no, and I think there's a lot of spots in the league that have done really well, with the fan bases, and I think because I think a lot of them are even up from previous leagues, right? Like, and I could be incorrect. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think
Right.
like
Yeah. I don't have the
some of
numbers in
those.
front of me either, but just from, my general memory, attendance is up across the board for most teams.
Yeah, but I'm saying like even like cities that had a team in a different league and then came to the
Oh, yeah.
Federal
Yeah.
League, like I think the attendance has gone up. I mean, but it seems like everybody's doing well. I
Yeah.
mean, it seems like the SP is doing well. Um, yeah, no, it's great to see everybody doing well, obviously, and means more to the players and the fans realize too that they support them.
100%. It means a lot to the fans, means a lot to the players. It gives me something to cover. It gives you a job.
Yeah,
Life
yeah,
is good.
yeah, 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 exactly.
So, for the Benchminer followers that may not know, who are some of your clients that currently play in the Fed or SP or have played in the Fed or SP? Some players that they may know.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, we talked about a couple of those guys. I mean, if we Minerva, Fredericks. Right now in the Fed, it's pretty goalie heavy right now. I was a goalie. But yeah, I mean, I look after Liskowitz, I look after Babin, Pavlos, um, Colton McGuire. And then there's been a number of other guys that I've had shorter term relationships with that I've just simply placed them on a team, and that's what they wanted from me, and that's what we did. Matthew Boilar in Binghamton. There's been, a few other guys in Binghamton as well. Um, so yeah, no, there's been a decent amount over the years, and yeah, I mean, like they're doing well, and it's I know like even Babin was just up with Kalamazoo in the ECHL, played an exhibition game, did very well. Obviously, he's back in Motor City right now, but it's just great to see it's just great to see them doing what they love and you know having success. And I know yeah, no, and I know Babin, Babin, like I love Babin's story. Like even before I took him on as a client, like I was in contact with him for years. Like I've got a great, I've always had a very good relationship with him. um
Mhm.
because he's done everything the hard way. Like he's done what most people would say, like, oh, you can't do that from that league. Like, oh, nobody from that league goes here, or whatever. Like he's done it because he's, I mean, but like, and you see it in his playing style. Like he's just a competitor. Like he competes. Like he just doesn't stop. So I
Right.
mean,
For those that kind of don't know his story, I don't mean to pry, but can you kind of give us a little bit of a background on his story?
yeah. So I mean, just like you know, he's in the GMHL, right? Like, and for the guys that don't know what that is, it's a junior league up in Canada. The top end of it's some very good players. The bottom end of it is atrocious. They're not Hockey Canada sanctioned, so they get there's a lot that people use against them to, I don't want to say try to sabotage it, but Um, you know, they get a lot of grief up in Canada, and
Mhm.
they allow 21-year-olds to play. Babin was playing there. I believe, yeah, it should have been as a 21-year-old that he was playing there, and then he gets a call up to Battle Creek, right, Rumblebees, right, and
Mhm.
we remember how their season went, right, and he got that call up because there was another goalie. I'm not going to say his name, but there's another goalie that they called up that didn't want to go there, um, because of the team. Like he's just like, this isn't going to work out well for my numbers, and how does this end? Like, wound up going with a different team in
Mhm.
the Federal League. So that guy doesn't come. Babin gets the opportunity, right? And this is before this may have been even before I was in touch with Babin, but he gets the opportunity. He goes there. I think he played one game, but he played very, very well. Right, played very well, especially for a 21-year-old kid coming out of this, quote unquote, no name league, and played very well, and then went back to the GMHL, did his thing, and then came back, and the rest, and then he's been playing in the Federal League, and I mean, like me, I just love the way he plays. Like I appreciate it. Like I like how hard he battles, how he really he wears his heart on his sleeve, and like he's it's funny because you know he is like you see sometimes like the fan interaction and stuff with him. I've seen him play. Like I remember in Binghamton, right? Like I saw him play
Mhm.
live in Binghamton, and you know whole building like they were sold out that night. Whole buildings taunted him, you know. And and he's kind of giving it back to them a little bit, like it was fun, like just fun fan interaction, um, but like off the ice, like at least with me, like, I mean, first off, he's the most respectful kid you'll ever meet. Just
Mhm.
very quiet, appreciative, you know, just doesn't mind, I don't think I've ever heard him complain once about anything. Um, he's the type of kid that's just like, hey, all I want is a sheet of ice and I'll do the rest. Like,
Right.
he just, and you appreciate that because there's a lot of guys that feel like that they're, owed everything or whatever. And, you know, um, so yeah, no, I mean, I just really appreciate, what he's done. And, um, yeah, I mean, even like when he went up to Kalamazoo, I mean, he played, you know, I think they played him the third period of a game, stopped 10 out of 11. And then,
Mhm.
if I remember correctly, one in a shootout, you know, like, you know, like he just battles. He just battles. I mean, he went up to Knoxville for a game last year. Did well. Um, yeah,
Well, that's awesome. I never heard that side of the story before. We'll definitely have to reach out to him sometime and bring him on the podcast and pick his brain a little bit about that. Um, you actually sent me a pretty awesome video earlier. We're gonna put it right
yeah,
here in the podcast so you guys can see it. But Liskey and Babin, huh? Who would have
yeah.
thunk it?
Not me, not me. And it was, yeah, it was just nuts. Like, that was the game. I said, seeing him play live in Binghamton, and
Mhm.
I was up in Binghamton because I was working with Liskowitz on the ice for the week. So, because
Right.
I used to do a lot of goalie training. I don't really do it anymore. So, don't tell anybody that I was training a goalie. So, because I don't really do it anymore. So, um, but yeah, so I was up there working with Liskowitz on the ice, and then they were playing against Delaware that weekend, and the game was over. It wasn't a good go for Delaware. Um, game was the game was out of hand, and I'm standing in the tunnel because there's like a minute left, so I'm waiting, for the game to be over, and Boilar squares off with like the biggest guy on Delaware, right? And Boilar is one of the guys that I've helped, so
Mhm.
He was probably, I think Wallar was 20 at the time. So, super young guy for, in the league. So he's squaring off with someone on Delaware. So I'm like, oh boy, like, I just want this to go well, and I'm videotaping too. I'm like, oh, like, no way. So I got the phone out. I'm videotaping Wallar. He like one punches the guy, or maybe it was two. I'd have to look at it again. But so I'm just happy that he won his fight. And I just hear Binghamton just erupt. I'm like, what is going on? I look over. There's Liskowitz and Babin squaring off at center ice. I'm like, oh boy. Like, because obviously I care about both guys and everything. I'm like, all right, well, just, enjoy the show here. And that was a long fight. I don't know if I'm sure you've seen it, but it was a long fight.
I watched it. Yeah, I watched it on YouTube. It's been a while. I mean, I watched it live on YouTube at that time, but it's
Yeah.
been a bit, so I might have to go back and rewatch. Maybe we'll throw the whole video right here or something. I don't know. We gotta see this fight again. But it's very rare we get to see goalie fights. So when we do, we love here in the Fed and SB, obviously.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, too, they both got lucky. Like, Babin's arm got tied up. Like, he could have clocked Liskowitz a couple times, a couple times more than he did. Um,
Right.
his arm got tied up. So, Liskowitz got lucky that Babin's arm got tied up there. And then probably, maybe somewhere around halfway through the fight, Liskowitz throws a gigantic right hand, I think, that missed him. Like, so in that video I sent you, I had like one of the intros to Step Brothers on it, because that's,
Mm-hmm.
like what it feels like. But it really would have been like Step Brothers, where they both just knock each other out, because they both got a little lucky there. Like, looking back at it, like,
I really can't remember. I know someone in the NFL. Maybe it was Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, but they came out wearing a shirt. It had the Step Brothers, but it had their faces on it. So maybe we should do that for Liskey and Babin.
yeah,
Get some specialized T-shirts
yeah,
made Step Brothers style.
yeah, might as well, yeah, yeah, no, then, yeah. I mean, obviously, they were awesome about it. They like hugged it out at the end, and both their adrenaline's just going 1,000 miles an hour.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, no,
we
they're
want to know your favorite goalie fight that you've ever seen. So whatever it is, doesn't matter. NHL, Fed, SB, put it down here in the comments. We want to look these up. We want to share them. Um, what would
yeah,
you
for
say? Let's kind
sure.
of get back to Swan Hockey a little bit. Um, what would you say is your vision for the future of Swan Hockey?
Follow on Instagram and other social media and find out.
That's right. Also, we're gonna
Yeah,
add
no,
your socials here, so
yeah,
potential clients and fans can check out your stuff. We're gonna put your Instagram and all your handles will be here. So
yeah.
we'll
No,
spread the
I'm
word,
more.
spread the love.
Yeah, I mean, I like where it's going. I like, the feedback I'm getting is good, and like this, you know, so obviously I want to keep building off of it. Um, and I know it's kind of a tough road. Not a tough road because, like, not a tough road, but what I mean is, like, there's stuff that's like really good that, some people can't support, right? Like,
Mhm.
because they know I'm right. Right. Like, I'll have a coach or something that'll call me privately and be like, "Oh, that was great," but he can't like it on Instagram, right? He can't comment on it, like that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So, like, it's so in that aspect, again, I don't want to say it's hard. Like, it's not, because I don't view it like, oh, poor me. Like, I don't, but it's, there's certain stuff that, doesn't get like the validation from,
Mhm.
from some of the people that, from some of the like coaches and stuff that a lot of these kids want to play for. Um, because, and I understand why. So, like, I don't
Right.
care. Um, but yes, like,
Yeah,
just,
right there with you. We get it here at Benchminer too. We'd be surprised. Like some of the stuff that I say, I don't really always want to say, but um, I try to give the good, the bad, and the ugly, from an unbiased standpoint as much as possible. Believe it or not, people. Um, and there's a lot of times where I'll have a head coach or a GM or shoot, even some of the management from the Fed and be like, I can't believe you said that. But you're right. And I
Yeah.
was like, well, I try.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So you
So
you
I get what you mean.
you get it 100%. And like what with hockey too, like a lot of like families and stuff are like, oh, like hockey's a business, right? And like my response is like, yeah, it is. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to show you how it works. Like you got to understand. Like yes, you're right that it's a business. Don't instead of complain like don't complain that it's a business. Understand that it's a business. Understand how it works. Like you have to understand the game you're playing if you're going to win at it, right? If you're going to be successful at it, you got to understand what game it like. It's very hard to accomplish something when you don't know like what it is that you're actually trying to accomplish. Like that's what I try to do. Like, and it's not just like throwing people under the bus or anything like that. Like I'm just you know, explaining certain things that should be obvious to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't want to say that should be obvious, but there's a lot of, there's a lot, it isn't so obvious, especially in the world of junior hockey. And, um, so that's a lot of the stuff that I do is just like, hey, here's how it works. And again, not throwing anybody under the bus or anything, like just, hey, it is a business. These teams want to win. Like you guys want to play in these tuition free leagues. Well, you got to be
Mm-hmm.
good. Like, like it's tuition free for you, but somebody's paying for you to be there. And
Right.
they're
There's no
expecting,
such thing as free. It doesn't
right.
matter.
And they're, and if they're paying for you to play, like they expect something from you. They expect you to play good, like real good,
Mm-hmm.
it's like just so then again, not to get into that but there's, yeah. So just, trying to help people navigate this and understand the mission that they have to accomplish. This way they could
Mm-hmm.
work to accomplish it.
100%. Yep. I mean, obviously we talk about everything hockey here, but I try to stay away from money and politics. And it's one thing I kind of like to try to do. So, um, there's politics and everything, people. That's just cold hard truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't, I mean, and that's what I tell people too. Like people are like, oh, hockey's so political. Like, well, it's just like anything else. Like it's no different than like that's my whole point. Is hockey's no different than anything else in life. Like, you know, same, like I try to explain to people too. Like someone be like, oh, hockey's so political. Well, yeah, it is. But that's, like I'll ask a client's parent, like, hey, well, let me ask you a question. If you needed a job done and you have a guy that and that can do the job and do it well, aren't you going to go with him over another guy that you don't know?
Mm-hmm.
People would, of course you are. People would say that that's you being political, but that's just with anything. It's not really like like yeah, there's some political, but it's also it's a trust thing, right? They trust that person.
Right. 100%. So we are running a little bit low on time, so we'll kind of wrap this up here in a minute. Just a few closing remarks and a few more questions here. I know you just had your client's parents, so that just reminded me. If you play junior hockey, or you know someone who plays junior hockey, or you have a family member that plays junior hockey, let us know in the comments where they play, their position. Let us know. We want to be interactive with our fans. We want to know who's listening. Um, what would you say would be the most important message you have for your clients?
The most important, whether it's one of my clients or anybody, is the big is you could do anything you want, right? And there's way too many people out there that say, hey, I'm being realistic. I'm never going to play in the NHL. Or I'm being realistic. I know my kid's never going to play in the NHL. Right. And my response is, you don't know that. Right. Like, that's not being realistic. That's just doubting yourself or doubting your kid. Right. Like, being realistic is saying, okay, here's where I'm at today. No better, no worse. Here's where I'm at today. Here's where I want to go. Now, here's what has to happen. Here's the journey that I have to take. Here's what I have to do to get there. Now, realistically, am I willing to do that? Am I willing to fight that fight? Yes or no? Like, that's being realistic. Like, are you realistically willing to do what it takes? Right? Like, and like there's a lot of people out there that I think, it's like that's my best advice is just like you could do anything and you gotta, you know, you can't, you can't doubt yourself. I mean, it's all hard. Like the time, like if you want to go to the top of any category, whether it's sports, academics, business, anything, it's
Hmm.
hard. Like if you want to be at the, like, so many parents, they tell their kid like, or even like school teachers and stuff, right? Like, oh, you want to go to the, like, you want to be, oh yeah, you could be president of the United States. You could go to the moon. Oh, you want to play in the NHL? Oh, you're being ridiculous. Like,
Right.
like, it's all hard. I mean, it's all like anytime you like, you want to go be valedictorian at a top end university, like there's not many people that do that. It's hard. Anytime you want
Right.
to go to the top of anything, it's hard. It's a lot of work, but it can be done.
Right. It's like I have said this in a previous episode. Um, Not a lot of people know this, but there has only been one player to play in single A to make it all the way to the NHL. So with that being said, is it likely? No, but it's not impossible. He put in the work. And the answer is Scott Darling, goaltender. If you put in the work, you do what you got to do. There's an opportunity. You never know. There was a
Absolutely.
Zamboni driver that played an NHL game before, so
Yeah. Well, I
you
mean,
saw
you even
that.
look at like Brad Barone. He was play.
Mhm.
He played in the Federal League. He was in camp with Tampa Bay 2 years ago, I think.
Mhm.
I mean, he didn't play in Tampa Bay, but he was in camp. I mean, it's like, I think eventually somebody from the Federal League will play in the NHL.
It'll happen
That's
eventually.
that's my
And now
opinion.
with
I think,
more teams, more players, more opportunities.
yeah, everything's impossible until somebody does it, and I think somebody will do it.
Right. So we're just about out of time. Just a couple closing remarks here. For those that don't know, Bench Miner is hosting our second annual toy drive. So if you are able to make a donation, that would be awesome. My goal is $2,000 this year. If you haven't heard my story, go on our Facebook page. I shared a video where I was affected by Toys for Tots when I was 14. I went through this whole sickness, illness, whatever you call it. And I was in the hospital for, 10, 12 days. And Toys for Tots came in while I was sleeping in the night and delivered some presents. And ever since then, I try to give back every year. Now that Bench Miner has a solid following, I'm really hoping you guys will help me out and make a difference to some of these kids. So if you are able to make a donation, please send me a message, leave a comment down below. I'll reach out to you, benchminerhockey@gmail.com. There's so many different ways to contact me, um, but I really would appreciate any help I can get. That would be huge. Um, for you, Eric, I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking to us.
And I appreciate you having me.
Of course, of
So,
course.
and yeah, no, and I mean that. Like, it's been great to watch the show grow and everything. Like, I know
Oh,
you
I
worked your
really
ass off.
appreciate that.
Yeah, and
It's
I know you worked your ass off putting, getting bench miner together and everything, and so no, it really,
it's been a
really is great
process,
to
and
hear.
I've had a lot of help too. So now that you mentioned that, I want to give a big shout out to Nick. Nick has been with me every step of the way. You guys don't see him on camera because he's busy behind the scenes doing the editing, doing everything else that I'm not doing. So huge thank you to Nick. He's a rock star. Um, Finally, last question. I know you're a busy guy. You got to get back to Jersey and do whatever it is you do. Contact your clients, watch goalie fights on YouTube. I don't know.
Yeah,
But what is something you want Benchminer hockey followers and single A hockey fans to know? Or any closing remarks? The floor is yours.
just support the team. Like, support the team and just have fun. Like, that's what it's here for, right? Like, support the team, root on your home team, give the visiting team shit. Like, it's fun. Like, that's, and like I said during the episode, like, it means more to the players than like the fans realize, and it means more to the players than they even realize right now too, I think. Um, but yeah, no, just yeah, no, it's like we said, it's great to see both single A leagues, thriving, and a lot of that is, it's one hand washes the other. It's because of everything going on with the leagues themselves and the teams, but then it's also the fans, the support they get from the fans, and so yeah, no, just enjoy it and keep supporting them.
100%. One thing I did forget to mention about the toy drive, whoever makes the largest donation, I'm sending you a t-shirt. Just an FYI. Eric, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to put your socials on here. We're going to put your information, your link, so people know how to contact you. He's got some awesome merch as well. That Swan Hockey logo is pretty sick.
This one, I appreciate it.
Yep, I like that.
Yeah, got some others up there too. Should have more coming. Should have more coming soon.
Christmas is coming,
right
people. So get yourself a Swan Hockey hat or shirt or something. Once again, Eric, appreciate you coming on, boss, and we will keep in touch. Okay.
Appreciate it. Yep, sounds great, Sean. I appreciate it again.
Of course. Bye-bye.
Bye.
What's up, Bench Miner? Sean here. It's a cold, wintry day here in upstate New York. I just wanted to tell you guys a little bit of a story here about when I was younger. When I was about 14, I had an issue where I didn't feel any pain or anything, but my stepdad kind of noticed that I was kind of favoring my left arm, and I didn't even notice I was doing it. But he kind of took my arm and he pulled it just ever so slightly, and I was screaming in pain. And at that point, I knew something was wrong, something was hurting. My mom took me to the emergency room. They couldn't figure out what was going on or what the issue was. They sent me to another hospital. They thought maybe I had rheumatic fever. Rheumatic fever was a rare disease that hasn't really been seen since about 1940-something. At that point, they really weren't sure what was going on with me or why I was in pain. And they actually sent me to a specialist in Syracuse. And I was there for about a week. And turns out I just had a very strange reaction to strep throat that kind of caused my immune system to shut down, and I couldn't battle anything. So I was kind of bedridden for about 10 or 12 days in the hospital. This all happened when I was 14, and it was over Christmas. And I just remember on Christmas morning, I woke up to my dad crying in the bed next to me, and a bunch of gifts there next to me. And I didn't really know what was going on at that time. Like I said, I was 14, I was young. And turns out that Toys for Tots actually visited the hospital while I was there sleeping. And, they brought in gifts for every kid that was in the hospital at that time. And ever since then, I've been, more involved with Toys for Tots, and I've been doing different things throughout the years for them. And I want to keep that going here with Bench Miner. Last year we had a pretty cool thing where a bunch of people, sent in some gifts, and, I got to donate them to Toys for Tots. This year I want to do things a little bit differently, though. Last year we accepted, Cash App, PayPal, whatever, people sending gifts, and just to kind of avoid all the shipping costs and, all the mail. I think this year what I want to do is just put out the Cash App there, Bench Miner Hockey. I'll make sure it's in this post. If you guys just want to make a donation, and at the very end, I think December 10th is probably when we're going to cut it. We will take all of that money and we will buy gifts for boys and girls of all ages, and we're going to donate most of it to Toys for Tots, just because that's they mean the world to me. And I also think that I'm going to do my own hospital run. So maybe, me, my wife, the Bench Miner team, maybe we can make a day of it and just go visit a local hospital and donate some toys and meet with some kids and, make it pretty special for them. So what I'm asking you guys to do, if you can, obviously, donate whatever you can to Bench Miner Hockey. That's Cash App. I'll make sure it's in the post here. I'll accept any donation. Doesn't matter if it's $1, $5, $10. Every little bit makes a difference to these kids. I know it did for me when I was young, and I want to keep that memory alive, and I want to keep that tradition alive of helping others when I can. So I really appreciate all you guys. Bench Miner has been life-changing, and it's only been second season. So I appreciate everyone. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me.